liked it. He is a IAS officer, a district collector. He was in Madurai, a very popular pilgrimage town in Tamil Nadu, Madurai Meenakshi. By refusing to take bribes, the Madurai collector, Mr. U. Sahayam, in Tamil it is Sagayam, U. Sagayam, has earned 18 transfers in 20 years, a modest house and bank balance and lots of respect. So, reject bribes, hold your head high, says a boarding hanging above Sahayam's chair in his modest office. That's the code he lives by. Even if politicians are incensed, they cannot bend him their way. He has been transferred 18 times in the last 20 years and has made enemies of both superiors and subordinates. I know I sit under a dangerous slogan and probably alienate people, he says, but I have been the same Sahayam from day one. Standing up against corruption is not for a season, nor is it a fad. It's forever. So how he has done it, that's available in the net. You should, when a situation came and the errant village officers ganged up to get Sahayam transferred, people protested and the order was resuscitated. It was taken back. Kanchipuram, he was a revenue officer. He took the sand mafia, ordering them to stop dredging the Pala riverbed. So Sahayam's wife, Vimala, has stood by him all these years, but she was rattled by some of the threats during elections. Sahayam takes a hands-on approach to his work. He holds a Monday Darbar with the people. I believe, as Mahatma Gandhi said, India lives in her villages, who also idolizes Subhash Chandra Bose. His years as a collector, he has slept overnight in village schools many times, convinced the villagers by strengthening the village administrative system, etc., etc. Then somewhere when he went for a tour in Himachal Pradesh, after a long time, Sahayam family went on vacation to Kulu Manali in Himachal Pradesh. While visiting the Gurudwara, a stranger came up to their father and asked him, "Aren't you IAS officer, Mr. Sahayam?" The children were beaming with surprise and they were simply taken aback by that. Somewhere in Kulu Manali, some people respect Mr. Sahayam in Tamil Nadu. So, morality is our dharma, morality is our breath, morality is our this one. Even if you give $1 million to a village development, still the village will be poor. If that operator, if the distributor, Mr. X, Mr. Y, Miss X, Miss Y, has not character, has no morality, only 1 rupee will go outside, 10 rupees will go inside. But if that same person is transformed as human excellent, as a wonderful being, then things will be different for the country. Personal life is more important, then that will add to the community life also. So we'll go into the second day, discuss carefully, and announcement to everybody. Some are joining little late. Please join by 6:10, 6:15. I told we'll start the class. Otherwise, it will be delayed on the higher side. We don't want that to happen. 6:15 is the class time. Maximum 7:30, 7:40. So the other subjects also will understand is not the end of the day. Tomorrow you'll get a class on psychology crisis. Day after tomorrow on leadership crisis. Then we come back to psychology and again go to leadership. It is just a little adjustment of the faculty as I had announced yesterday. So please participate every day, next 4 days also, and gain the maximum. And as yesterday Pramod was mentioning, join other courses. Next week morning there is communication skills for college students and young employees. Morning batch 8:15, 8:30, 9:30. That's a 1-week course, communication skills, basic course, right? Then another interesting course is coming up, psychology course from 23rd. It is on depression, steps to overcome depression. That is for 5 days. A top neuroscientist from Bengaluru, who is highly experienced, who is our devotee following Vivekananda Ramakrishna teachings. She will be handling 3 days, deep inner, what you call the root canal treatment of depression. It is a very bad situation today in the country. Suicides and mental problems, addictions, all because of depression. So we'll go dive deep into that issue. That will be next week, Monday to Friday. These are my quick announcements. Request Pramod, who has joined us from Coimbatore, to take over. Pramod, namaste.
Pranam.
Yes, very good. I heard the entire, this one once again, recording. and appreciate your this one, and wonderful questions, wonderful interest by the people. Only thing is, those who are asking questions or interacting with Pramod, please introduce yourself. Your name, your place, and what you are doing. Student, working, first year, second year, so that we'll get idea what exactly is your background and why are you asking that question. It will come. That is a small request from others, and you can, questioning time, you can switch on your video if it is okay. If it is presentable, then ask the question. And don't repeat the questions again and again, same thing. Ask practical questions. Questioning also is very important. Vivekananda went with one question and he got so much. Have you seen God? Wonderful question. Edison asked questions, and Vishweshwaraya asked questions. Newton asked questions. Abdul Kalam asked questions, and they got so much. One question by Sri Ramakrishna. But he was not even Sri Ramakrishna, he was Gadadhar, 16-year-old boy. He asked his brother, can you teach me one thing by knowing which, please listen carefully, my dear friends. Can you teach me that one thing by knowing which everything else will be known? What a wonderful, deep, inner scientific question. Sri Ramakrishna said, I don't want to know 100 things. I want to know one thing. If I know one thing, I should be able to get 100 things. Brother was confused. Though brother was a learned Sanskrit scholar, Ram Kumar, he said, oh, no, I don't know one thing, I know many things. Sri Ramakrishna said, I will do myself. He educated himself. And who is that one thing? What is that one thing? It is Mother. It is the Divine Mother. I will realize God. One knowing it is equal to 100. And he said, 5 zeros on the blackboard. What is the value? 0. 100, 0, 0. And rub off all the zeros. Before that, you put number 1. 1 followed by 2 zeros. Immediately, how much you say? 100, 1000, 10,000, 1 lakh, 10 lakhs, crores, millions, trillion, billion. The zeros will have value. Why? That one is for, Ramakrishna said, God. And in our present class context or in the moral crisis, it is morality. It is your character that matters, that one. All of us are zeros. If one is there, we are heroes. We become strong. We become Ratnas. We become a not just a weathercock. We become lighthouse. So morality is lighthouse. It show direction. So India stands by that. We should stand by that. And that is how Pramod is educating his students and also interacting with all of you. And over to Pramod, and your platform is yours. Thank you, Pramod. Welcome. Namaste.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Yes.
Namaste, everyone. Welcome back to the session. So in yesterday's session, I gave you a very logical, rational approach to moral values. And I gave you some thumb rules to think about. So can somebody refresh our memory quickly and tell me what those thumb rules are? If one of you can volunteer with those 3 or 4 thumb rules, then we can go on to the next step. First thumb rule, anyone?
Can I speak? My name is
Yes.
Swarathi. I am from Kolkata. I am a student of third year.
Go ahead.
Yes. The first thumb rule is do unto others as you would have them to do unto you.
Okay, Sarathi, let's give a chance to another person. First thumb rule, you've got it right. Do unto others as you would like others to do unto you. Second thumb rule, anyone else?
Integrity of character.
Right, integrity. Build your integrity. Third, related to integrity.
For long-term goal. Plan for long-term goal.
Yes. Look for long-term success, not for short-term success. Don't look for shortcuts in life. Last one. Anyone else? Any other participants? Look for short-term.
Consistency of behavior.
Sorry?
Consistency of behavior.
Okay, that was covered. Okay, in the first one. All right. Okay, I think we've covered most of the ground that we.
I want to add 2 things.
Yes.
One thing is that integrity of character. That it is, yesterday you told that clarity of thought leads to conviction. Conviction leads to character.
Right.
And the 4th one, you told a tongue twister. Value is a value only when the value of value is valuable to man.
Right. Great. I hope that all of you have had some time to introspect. Okay. How many of you, let's say, set apart some time to create a diary or a blog where you can review, your thoughts, your actions for the day. Right. I was telling you that this is very, very important to keep reviewing what we are so that we can keep working on ourselves, keep improving on ourselves, and move forward. In today's session, as I said yesterday, we will be looking at one or two very fundamental metaphysical concepts, philosophical concepts, which are the foundations of all moral values. Let me present it this way. You see, from time immemorial, human beings have asked certain questions, which are eternal questions, irrespective of their social status or which country they belong to, which religion they belong to, etc. These questions are universal questions. These are what we call existential questions that humanity has always tried to find answers to. And having some working clarity on these questions again is very, very important to have clarity on moral values also. What are these questions? Okay, very basic questions that any religion tries to answer. Who am I, right? And why am I born in this world? What happens to me after death? Is there something called life after death? What is this universe? What is the relationship between me and this universe? Is there an entity called God? This word God is an English word which I don't like, but for the sake of convenience, I will use it. The Indian word is Ishvara. Okay, that I'll come to it as to why that word is better than this English word God. But the relationship between I, universe, and God, right? What is the relationship between these three things? So all religion and spirituality, all philosophy and metaphysics tries to answer these existential questions. And as I said, if you have some basic clarity on these questions, then your goal of life, the very goal of human life, the very purpose of human life will become clear to you. And again, that will serve, as I said, as a moral, spiritual compass, which will guide you throughout life. Unfortunately, our education system does not educate us, does not give us an opportunity to even ask these questions or to find suitable answers to these questions. Swami Bodhamayananji was saying that Swami Vivekananda asked this single question and it changed his life. I wish that our education system makes all our youngsters ask these existential questions at an early stage in life. Spirituality, my dear friends, is not a post-retirement plan. It is not that after retirement we will think about these questions when we have spent all our life. Just imagine if a 60-year-old person comes and asks Swamiji, what is the goal of my life? Having led your life for 60 years already without clarity, you are now trying to decide what is the goal of life. It is a waste of time, right? You have wasted your life and now you are thinking about the goal of life. Post-retirement is not the time when you should think about the goal of life. It is in your youth, at the beginning of life, that you need to fix the goal and the purpose of life. And therefore, some clarity on these questions is very, very important in order to move forward, in order to get that conviction, as I said, about moral values also. Again, we will take as logical and rational an approach as possible to these metaphysical concepts. The first concept is, please compare yourself to species which are lesser than you. Take the plants and the animal species in this world. The Bhagavatam says there are about 8.4 million species in this world, right? So out of these 8.4 million species, human beings is one species. What is the probability of being born as a human being out of 8.4 million, right? 1 out of 8.4 million is the probability of getting a human body. So getting a human body itself is quite a rare opportunity. This is what the Bhagavatam tells us. But most of us lead, being born in this human body, we lead our entire life without understanding in what way a human being is different from a plant or an animal. Okay, this is where Adi Shankara, the great philosopher of Advaita, 8th century, says there are 4 instincts which are common to human beings and all other species. Ahara, Nidra, Bhayamaithunamcha. Okay, Ahara, food, hunger is common to human beings and all species. Nidra, sleep, is common to all the species. Bhaya, fear of death, is common to all these species. Maithuna, reproduction. Okay, so the tendency, the instinct for survival to leave behind your species. These are the 4 instincts which are common to us and to all the other living species. The problem is, if you look at most of the human beings today, if you are living only by these 4 instincts, then Adi Shankara is asking us the question, in what way is your life different that of a donkey or a cow? If you are living only by these 4 instincts, if you are living only to satisfy your hunger, you are sleeping, you are afraid of death, you are just surviving and you are reproducing. if these basic instincts are what you are satisfying in your human life, then your human life is no different from that of a plant or an animal. You're only surviving, and you're no different from the subhuman species. What sets us apart from all these plant and animal species? Why is it that human beings are considered as the acme, the pinnacle of God's creation of this universe? What is it that makes us distinct from all the other species? Can somebody point it out? Anybody who has thought about this? What is it that sets us apart from other plants and animal species? Any participant?
Thinking
thinking
is
ability.
Are you telling me that animals cannot think? Think about a leopard, for example. It goes on a hunt. It's hunting a deer. Does it not have to plan that hunting, right? How much of planning goes into hunting a deer? Look at the way the leopard crouches in the forest, waits for its prey to come, and then, it plans its attack, and then it executes it. Can this be done without some thinking? It's not that animals cannot think. Plants maybe cannot think. Thinking is immutable in plants, but animals do have a lot of thinking.
Medha Shakti, that one we
Intellect.
can.
Intellect.
Intellectual.
Intellect.
Okay. Who's saying
Animals
intellect?
cannot.
Yeah,
Who is
this
the
is
person who
Uday.
said intellect?
Yeah, this is Uday.
Okay. Okay, Uday, you're right. The faculty called intellect. What is this faculty called the intellect? In what way is thinking different from intellect?
I can tell you. Can I speak? Sarathi, I can
Yes,
speak.
Sarathi, go ahead. Yes.
See, the intellect means thinking of Shreyas and Priyas. Means what will help me in the longer run is called
I
Shreyas.
don't know what is Shreyas and Preyas, Sarathi. Let's not go into Sanskrit words. Okay. I want to very, think about, let's say I'm a very ignorant person. I'm a very common layman. Okay. I want to understand in very basic language.
Okay. What
In
will
what way is
benefit
thinking
me?
different from the
What
faculty called
will
intellect?
benefit me in the longer run? That is intellect. Thinking. But what is wrong?
Okay.
What is right? What is wrong?
Okay. See, intellect is the faculty that decides, the decision-making capacity in any given situation. What makes you decide, given two choices in front of us, which choice is better for me, which choice is not good for me? The ability to make that decision is what the intellect or the buddhi does, right? If you look at the animal species or the plant species, there are two things missing. One, they are not presented with a choice. And second, they do not have the ability to decide, given two choices, which choice is better. This is usually difficult for an animal to do because this faculty of intellect is not well developed as in the case of human beings. Let me give you an example. Have you ever seen a cow which suddenly wakes up one morning and says, I am bored of eating grass. Let me try some fish curry today, right? Have you ever seen a vegetarian animal anywhere in the universe which says, I'm bored of eating vegetarian food, let me try something different? The herbivorous animal is born to be a herbivorous animal. It remains a herbivorous animal throughout its life by instinct. It is programmed to be what it is throughout its life. It has no power to change that. It has no choice to change that. Similarly, a carnivorous animal. Have you ever seen a tiger, for example, which wakes up one morning and says, let me try aloo gobi today, right? Not possible. Okay. So the animals are programmed to be what they are. They go by their instinct. They are driven by their instinct. And within those instincts, they work. Okay. They have a limited capacity to work within those instincts. But look at a human being. Look at the variety of choice which is given to a human being. A human being can say, I can be a complete vegan. I will not even touch milk products. There will be a human being who will say, I'll be a vegetarian. Another will say, I'm a vegetarian. To another extreme, there are cannibals living in the Andaman Nicobar Islands who will eat other human beings. So from being vegans to cannibals, we have all variety of human beings. Why? Because there is a choice that is given to us which other subhuman species do not have. Okay, and we have been presented with this choice because we have the faculty called the intellect, which allows us to choose between two given choices. This is what sets us apart from all other plant and animal species, is this ability to make a choice. So what sets it apart human beings is the ability to which they are making use of their intellect in making these choices. If in your everyday life, if you are making use of this buddhi, this intellect, this viveka, only then you are leading a human life. Only then you are really living the human life. Otherwise, you are only surviving, and therefore your survival, your existence is no different from that of an animal. So therefore, please start using this faculty of the intellect, this buddhi. Okay, the very fact that you have choice. Okay, so the first is intellect. Second, the faculty, the point that you have choice means that you have been given what is called free will, willpower. Okay, no subhuman species has this ability of a free will. Free will is not given to them. As I said, they're programmed to behave in a certain way. But you have what is called free will or willpower. You can decide to do, you can decide not to do, you can decide to do the same action in a different way. So it is this free will which sets us apart from all other species. Having given you free will, right? Because every action that I do is born of this free will. I am choosing to act from very simple things to very complex things. I have chosen to participate in this webinar. Let's say a simple housewife gets up in the morning and chooses to cook a particular dish for that day. If from trivial actions to more complex actions, from let's say your career choice, I choose to become an engineer or a doctor or a lawyer or a chartered accountant. I choose to marry and become a grihastha, or I choose to become a sannyasi, so on and so forth, right? All these are choices that we make, okay? And our life is decided, is guided by these choices that we make. We are a product of the choices that we make, okay? And therefore, the end result is a sum total of all the choices that we have been making over the years, okay? So this brings us to this basic understanding, this basic logical conclusion that we are responsible for our actions, because it is I who am choosing to do something. I have chosen to do something, and therefore the result of that action, the consequence of that action, I have to bear. Okay, this is what is called the law of karma in Indian tradition, in Indian spirituality. It is karma siddhanta. Okay, please understand the law. Okay, it is not a belief. I'm not saying that you should believe in the law of karma. It is like the law of gravity. If all the planets are moving in a certain orbit around the sun in our solar system, it is because these astronomical objects have a gravitational force that pulls, that attracts each other to them and puts them into that orbit. You cannot say that gravitational force is a belief. Okay, you cannot say that I will not believe in gravity. If you say I will not believe in gravity, then I will say, please prove it to me that you don't believe in gravity. Jump from the 13th floor of the building and show me that you don't believe in gravity, right? So you cannot, you cannot reject a law and say it is a belief and that I will not believe in it. The same thing what applies to a gravitational force applies to the law of karma. If you have free will, if you accept that you have free will, you also have to accept the law of karma. The law of karma simply says that you are accountable to the actions that you do. And therefore, every result of the action that you do, you alone have to experience the result of that action. The result of that action will come to you. No force in this universe can prevent the result of that action from coming to you, because you have chosen to do that action. As simple as that. Okay, this is the law of karma. Okay, and the corollary is simply this, that the result will be proportional to and similar to the nature of the action that you do. This is what is often called the Newton's third law, action and reaction. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. For every karma, there is an equal and opposite, or not exactly opposite. In fact, in the law of karma, it is similar, right? So good actions will fetch good results, bad actions will fetch bad results, so on, okay, so forth. So here there are some very important, this is universal knowledge, especially if you're born in India. You don't have to read the Upanishads or Brahma Sutras or anything to understand this. This knowledge of the law of karma is ingrained into us. All of us have heard about it in some way or the other, and we believe in it, whether we accept it explicitly or not, right? We believe in it. But some clarity is required on this law of karma. This is why, moral foundations, all these values that we were talking about, whether it is ahimsa, satya, honesty, etc., are essentially rooted in this metaphysical concept of the law of karma. So therefore, some clarity is required. Some deeper understanding of this is required, which popular conceptions or the popular books that you read will not give you. So this is where I'll spend another 5 to 10 minutes trying to explain, so that you understand this law of karma with clarity. As I said, if you have clarity, then it will not be a matter of belief. It will become part of your mind, your active mind, your conscious mind, and your subconscious mind. It will become part of your personality, and therefore you will not violate the law of karma. So, the whole human life should be tuned to these cosmic laws like the law of karma. If you want to lead a life of happiness, a life where you have peace of mind, a life where you will lead a productive life and you will become a good example to others, as long as your life is tuned to these cosmic laws, you will not get into trouble, right? If you violate these cosmic laws, it is like going and rubbing your shoulder against a tree, right? You have a tree and you say, you'll go and rub your shoulder against it by violating that law. The next day morning, you'll have a raw shoulder, you'll have a scratch on your shoulder. Nothing will happen to the tree, right? Nothing will happen to this cosmos, but it is you who will suffer in the process if you violate the law. So this basic understanding you should have, that these cosmic laws should be followed for your own benefit, for your own good, and not to prove to the world or not to prove to anybody else, right? So the law of karma says that every action will give you a certain result. You are responsible for that result. Now here, what we need to understand is, what is a good action and what is a bad action? How do you decide whether an action is good or bad? Any answers to this? Why do we classify certain actions as good or bad? How do we classify? On what basis do we classify certain actions as good or bad? What is a good karma and what is a bad karma? How do you define a good action and a bad action? What is good and what is bad? This is the most fundamental question that our education system should have given some clarity upon, right? And you scratch the surface, people are just flummoxed. People are confused. They cannot answer even this basic question as to what defines an action as good or bad.
The actions which make me unhappy are bad actions. The actions which make me happy and give me peace of mind is good actions.
Okay, but doesn't go again to the root of the problem, right? A soldier, imagine, yes, somebody else is answering. Go ahead.
I think that it is the intention and the motives
Okay.
with which an action is performed sets
Yes.
whether it is good or bad.
Good. Okay. I think Ambika is giving us the right answer. Yes, that it is the intention behind the action which decides the good or the bad of the action. Okay. I was giving the example to illustrate. Imagine, let's say there is a soldier fighting a war. There is an India-Pakistan war. A soldier is fighting the war. Okay. He kills 20 Pakistani soldiers. Is that a good action or a bad action? Per se, it is a violent action, right? But why do you give him a Paramveer Chakra and Ashok Chakra? Because in defeating those soldiers and killing those Pakistani soldiers, he has essentially saved the lives of millions of innocent citizens who would have otherwise died in an invasion, right? So you look at the intention of the person who is doing that action. The intention is what defines the right or the wrong or the good or the bad of that action. Okay, so we'll work with this basic clarity. We'll go to the, I'll come to the larger, a deeper understanding of this good and bad later on if time permits. Okay, but let's work with this concept of the intention behind the action is what defines the good or bad of the action. Okay, so as I said, the law of karma says that if you do go on doing good actions, good results will come to you. If you go on doing bad karma, the bad results of that action will come to you. Okay, so, but is this what you find in society, right? Yesterday I was giving you this example. If this is true, then all the honest people in this world should be happy. They should be getting good results of their actions. And similarly, all the evil people, the criminal minds who are doing a lot of wrong actions should also be, getting the bad results of their actions. Is that happening in front of our eyes? Why this dichotomy? Why do we see that people sometimes who are doing bad actions seem to be quite happy, in fact, quite comfortable? They seem to be leading a royal life. You just have to look at some of these mafia dons, right? One of these mafia dons, who is the most wanted man in India, lives in a palace called the White House in Karachi, right? He was the man responsible for the 1993 bomb blasts in Bombay. He has still not been caught. He has still not been punished for those crimes. And he continues to be, scot-free. He lives a royal life. His annual turnover runs into billions of, dollars. He has his hand, on everything, all the businesses that you can think of, including your movie industry in Bombay. So how can we say that good actions will bring good results and bad actions will bring bad results? This is where the confusion comes. Okay, so this is where people again, lose faith, so to say, begin to doubt the law of karma, because they see this paradox of human life, that I may be following the law of karma, but the result does not seem to come to me immediately. There is a time lag between the result, the action being done, and the result coming to you. Okay, this is what our scriptures say. It is something like you have the seed of a banyan tree. Have you seen the seed of a banyan tree? It's very, very tiny, in size, but out of that comes a gigantic tree. Okay, suppose I bring a small seed of a banyan tree and throw it in my bedroom. Tomorrow, will you have a banyan tree growing into full size? Doesn't happen, right? In fact, nothing will come out of it till the circumstances are conducive for the seed to sprout. The seed will not sprout. So it will wait for the circumstances to become conducive to sprout. Maybe the wind will come and blow the banyan seed out of your bedroom into the soil nearby. There is a pot outside, or there is soil, there is a garden nearby. It goes and falls into the soil there. Maybe 3 months later, the monsoon comes, it rains, then all the conditions are ideal for the seed to sprout. The seed meets with soil and moisture, and then it begins to sprout. Okay, this is where the scripture brings in the idea that the karma phala, there is a time lag between the action being performed and the result manifesting. In fact, the result manifests in two different ways. Okay, the karma phala, as it is called, the fruit of the action. Karma means action. Karma phala means the fruit of the action, is divided into two parts. One is called the pratyaksha phala, okay, the direct result. The second is called the indirect result of the action, adrishya phala, adrishya, okay, or adrishtam is a word that is very common in all Indian languages, right? This is the idea of what you call good luck or bad luck, which is explained logically only in Indian philosophy and spirituality. Only in Vedanta, only in Hinduism, you find a very, very logical explanation for the idea of luck. Right? You go to anywhere in the world, luck is a universal human experience. But how do you explain it? Right? A hunter goes into the forest one day, does not find anything to eat. Another day, the moment he enters, he finds a catch. Right? One day you go to the bus stop, the bus comes on time like clockwork. You get into the bus, you reach your destination within no time. Another day you have to wait for an hour for the bus to come. One day seems to be very conducive for you to do certain things. Another day does not give you the same actions do not seem to give conducive results on another day. How do you explain this result, the change in the result in different time phases? This is explained using this concept of drishtaphala and adrishtaphala, or direct result and the indirect result. Let's say you're doing a good action. You go to an orphanage and you give a check of 1 lakh rupees to that orphanage as charity, as a donation to that orphanage. What do you get? What is the direct result? The satisfaction, the happiness that you get, right? You feel very, very happy that you're sharing your resources, that you're caring and sharing for the poor children, and therefore it gives you a great amount of satisfaction and happiness. This is the direct result that you get. But the Shastra says there is an indirect result that is also stored. Every human being is given two bank accounts. One is called punya, the other is called papa. Okay, punya is that invisible bank account which you have, where all these invisible results of your good actions are stored. Papa is the invisible account that you have, where all the results of your wrong actions are stored over a period of time. Okay, this is what we call as the adrishtaphala of your actions. And this invisible result of your actions, that 1 lakh charity that you have given you, leads to what we call a certain punya. But the punya will not manifest immediately. It will wait for a certain period of time for the right, as I said, for the right environment, for the right circumstances, for it to manifest. It could be 1 day, it could be 1 month, it could be 1 year, it could be 10 years, it could be 60 years, it could be maybe 1,000 years before that particular karma manifests, right? So this is where we come to that logical corollary of the law of karma called the law of reincarnation. If you accept that you have free will, if you accept that the law of karma, you're accountable to your actions, you will also have to accept the law of reincarnation. The law of reincarnation has to be taken on the basis of faith, because say in the whole history of humanity, you do not have any single human being who has ever come back after dying to come and tell us what happens after death. Okay, whether to tell us whether he goes to heaven or hell, or whether there is something called life after death, cannot be proven scientifically. It cannot be demonstrated scientifically to any human being, because there is no example of any human being coming back to us after death. It's only in stories and in mythology that you will come across those stories, but those stories are unverifiable stories. And therefore there is no way to like put it in a test tube and show that this is what will happen after life after death, and therefore I can accept it. This part of the law of karma, this corollary of the law of karma, has to be taken on the basis of inference, and it has to be accepted on the basis of faith. I'm being very, very frank and open with you. Okay, this part of the karma siddhanta has to be taken on the basis of faith. There is no way in which it can be 100% proven to you that this is what will happen after death. But as I said, if you logically follow the law of karma, as I said, as a human being, in a single lifespan of say 60 years, you will be doing trillions of actions, right? Logically, if you approach it, you will come to that conclusion. Now, for all these trillions of actions that you have done, can you get the result within that 60 years itself? Assuming that the average human lifespan today is about 60 years, is it possible to experience the result of each and every action in that lifespan itself? It is not possible, right? Imagine, let's say there is a criminal. I'm just giving a gross example just to drive the point home. Imagine, let's say there is a criminal who has committed a crime and he goes to a court of law, but there is no evidence against that crime. There is no circumstantial evidence against the criminal, against the suspect, against the accused. And the Supreme Court or the High Court sets him free, saying, for lack of evidence, we are setting you free. Because there is no circumstantial evidence against you in this particular crime, you are being acquitted. Being acquitted does not essentially mean that he has not done the crime, right? It just means that in that case there is not enough circumstantial evidence to convict him, to punish him, and therefore the court is setting him free. Does it mean that if you are an intelligent criminal who can evade the law, the man-made courts like the Supreme Court or the High Court, does it mean that you are escaping the result of that action, right? No. As I said, if you accept this basic fact that you have free will, and therefore by the very fact that you have free will, you are responsible for the actions that you do, and therefore the result of every action that you do has to come back to you. You have to experience the result of that action. Therefore, even if all the courts of the world are incapable of punishing you, even if you have done that crime within the four walls of your room and there is no evidence for it, there is no witness for it, you will still experience the result of that action. When is the question, not if is not the question, but in a matter of time, the result of that action will come back to you. This is where the Shastra says the Adrishtaphalam gets stored in your subconscious mind. You see, in Indian mythology, there is a very beautiful concept. There is a character that is told to us. There's a character called Yama. Yama is the god of death. Okay? He's the first human being who died the same, and therefore he was made responsible for death itself, for the lifespan of human beings, and he snatches away your life when your time comes. Now this Yama, it seems, has an assistant called Chitragupta. In Sanskrit, if you understand what that word means, it's something mind-boggling. It's a concept of psychology that is being taught to us through this mythological character. Chitra Gupta. Gupta means secret. Chitra is a picture. Okay, so a man who keeps secret pictures of every action that you do, like a CCTV camera that has been installed in your house, right, which records mechanically 24/7 into 365 everything that you do. Your mind is Chitragupta. Essentially, your subconscious mind is your Chitragupta. It records every action that you do, whether others see it or not, whether there is an eyewitness to your action or not. Every action that you do is recorded in your subconscious mind, right? Everything, every trivial action that you do gets recorded in your subconscious mind in the form of what is called as an impression, right? It remains as a seed impression in your mind and nothing can destroy it. It's like a hard disk in the computer, and which cannot be erased, it cannot be destroyed. Even if your physical body is destroyed, the Shastra says the seed impressions of your actions will get carried over through what you call the Sukshma Sharira, your subtle body, and the Karana Sharira. They will carry the impressions of the actions which you have done in this life, and then your next life will be decided according to the sum total of these actions which you have done. Okay, so this is what is called as Prarabdha. That is, after death, you are given a new body after a certain period of time in order to continue the chain of actions which you have done. So therefore, the law of karma, you have free will, you are responsible for your actions, you are accountable to your actions, and in order to be accountable to your actions will have to get carried over from one birth to another. You will have to be reborn to experience the results of your actions, and therefore that chain will continue. If you have not experienced the results of some of the actions that you have done now, perhaps you will experience it in the next birth. Perhaps you will experience it in maybe 3 or 10 births from now. How many births do we have? Infinite number of births, the Shastra says. As long as you are bound to this body consciousness, this body mind complex, as long as you're bound to that, you will keep being born, you will keep being reborn, you will die again, you will be born again in a physical body. Only when self-knowledge arises, all these seed karmas are burnt. We say self-knowledge like a fire burns these actions and the results of those actions, and then you are free, you are set free from the cycle of birth and death, and only then you will be free from this cycle of birth and death. This is the essence, my dear friends, of Indian metaphysics, of Indian spirituality, of Indian religion and philosophy. People spend years to learn these concepts. If you go to a Gurukulam like the Ramakrishna Mission, you'll have to, spend at least 1 year learning the basics of this. There are other Gurukulas which offer 3-year courses where first year you learn Sanskrit, second year you learn Gita, third year you learn Upanishads, and only then these concepts become clear to you. What I am trying to do is condense this knowledge of the scriptures, of the Shastras in a 1-hour class. So it is not easy, right? So don't expect to have clarity within 1-hour class. You'll have to spend some time thinking about it, trying to debate it, question it, and only then you'll get some clarity about it. So in a nutshell, this is the Karma Siddhanta which I presented to you, because as I said, if you accept this Karma Siddhanta, only then the philosophical foundation of morals will become clear to you. Otherwise, if you do not accept the Karma Siddhanta, then the question will come to us, then what is the basis of the moral fabric of this universe? If I am not accountable to my actions, then why should I be moral, right? Why should I be honest? Why should I be truthful? Why should I be non-violent? If I'm not going to experience the results of my actions, what is the point of following these morals and values, right? So the whole moral fabric of human society collapses if you do not accept the law of karma, if you do not accept the Karma Siddhanta, and as a corollary, as I said, if you do not accept the law of reincarnation, the philosophical, the metaphysical foundation of morals collapses. But if you accept it, you become conscious of each and every action that you do, knowing, becoming aware that each and every action will have a consequence which you cannot escape. You can escape from all man-made systems, but your mind will not forgive you. Your Chitragupta will not forgive you. Your subconscious mind will not forgive you. And therefore, a man who accepts with humility this Karma Siddhanta, who applies his mind with clarity and understands this law of karma, will become extremely cautious about every action he does. Every thought, every action is karma. Thought is also karma. Please understand, thought is also a form of action. Thought is also a form of karma. And therefore, if you go on thinking, violent thoughts, for example, you are also committing, the fruit of that result will also come to you. You are tuning yourself into a frequency which is very, very violent. The result will also be violent. So therefore, a person, who understands the law of karma will become very, very sensitive, will become very, very humble. Emotional maturity will come to that person, and he will understand that whatever he is today is the result of all the choices that he has made in the past. See, there are some critics who will say that the Karma Siddhanta makes us fatalist. There was our first Prime Minister of India who said that India is growing at 4% economic growth because Indians are fatalist in their thinking. They believe in the law of karma. They've become lazy. They think everything happens to them because of the law of karma, and therefore they are satisfied with whatever they get, and therefore they are not working hard. This is the worst possible interpretation of the law of karma that anybody can give. And it is because we had confused leaders like this that 70 years of our post-independence period of our economy went into doldrums because our leaders did not have clarity on these basic concepts. The law of karma will not make you fatalistic, my dear friends. Please understand the law of karma clearly. The law of karma is not saying that there is something called fate, that there is something called some power which is controlling all of you, and that you have to accept blindly whatever happens to you, and that you cannot change, that there is something called destiny, and that this destiny is unchangeable. No. What the law of karma is doing is in fact giving the reins of your life into your hands. It is saying that whatever is happening to you today, if you're suffering today, it is because of the past choices that you have made. Maybe you don't know what choices have led to that result, but because it is there somewhere in the subconscious, you're not able to connect the result to that particular action, but it is there, right? That connection is there. The cause and effect relationship is irrefutable. Anything that happens has to have a cause. If you see smoke, there has to be a fire, which is the cause of that smoke. And similarly, if there is fire, there will be smoke. The cause and effect is irreversible, irrefutable, and therefore you know that whatever is happening to me today is because of the past choices that I have made. I am therefore a result of my past karmas. So if you understand this, what happens, right? You become totally responsible for yourself. You're not running away from yourself. Swamiji was talking about cases of depression, suicide, right? Why do people commit suicide? Because they are unable to come to terms with their situation. They find themselves in a crisis. They find themselves in a very difficult situation, and they think that escaping from that situation is the only solution to that problem. And sometimes they think that putting an end to their life will help them escape from that situation. If you understand the law of karma, in fact, you will not become a fatalist. You will not become a suicide case. You will not commit suicide, because you will know that even if you commit suicide, even if you give up this body, you will have to come back in another human body and experience the result of that action. Till you learn the lesson which that experience is trying to teach you, you will not be able to escape from it. And therefore, the sooner you accept it, you accept the suffering that you find yourself in, you accept the crisis that you find yourself in, and work over it, learn the lesson from it, and move on. Till then, those situations will keep on repeating. And therefore, a man who understands the law of karma will become mentally very, very strong. He will become emotionally very, very strong, because he will have the strength to accept whatever happens to him as a result of the past choices that he has done. And then he will also have the knowledge that if I am suffering today because of my past choices, or if I am happy today because of my past choices, then all that I need to do is that from now on, in every given moment, I have to make the right choice in order to make my future better. If I keep on making right choices now, if I keep on choosing the right thing in every moment, in every decision that I do, my future is assured. It's an insurance, policy that I'm taking. I can insure my future by tuning my life according to that law of karma. So the law of karma, in fact, does not make you fatalist. It will make you strong. It gives you the freedom to do what you want to do in life. It gives you that willpower to set, bring in a course correction into your life and to decide what your future has to be, right? So this is the theory part of it. Let me give you a few examples from the epics like the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, just to drive the point home. See, the whole purpose of reading these epics was to drill these ideas, these concepts deep into our minds. So therefore, you will find that each and every character in the epic Ramayana or the Mahabharata is usually an incarnation. There is a story behind him. There's a story behind the character, which is constantly telling us that he is what he is today. He is depicted to be what he is today because of some past choices that he has made. Maybe he is not aware of those past choices, right? So this is where the commonly asked question comes. If what you say is true, then why is it that we don't remember what we have done in the past lives? Why is it that we don't remember our past births? This is a common question that comes. So we will try and see this using these examples from the epics Ramayana and the Mahabharata. Why is it that we forget our past births? For this simple reason that, if suddenly you remember what you were in all your past births, will you be able to come to terms with it, right? Suppose you wake up tomorrow morning and discover that you were Veerappan in your last birth, right? What will happen to you? I'm just giving a very funny example. But let's say, who knows what we were in our past births? And unless we have the emotional maturity to, face that reality, suddenly if we come face to face with that reality without being ready for it, we can be unhinged, we can be thrown off our emotional balance. And because perhaps we are not ready for it, there is a defense mechanism that our mind has created, which is forgetfulness. And therefore, forgetfulness, my dear friends, is a blessing in disguise, because you are able to forget. You're still able to create a new slate, a clean slate with your life and move on. If you are unable to forget your past actions will keep haunting you all the time. You will not be able to move on. You will be bogged down. You will become a moral wreck. You will become a psychological wreck. You'll go into a chronic depression, right? Therefore, that wheel has been created on our mind so that we don't remember the cause of our sufferings today. But sometimes it is possible to awaken those memories when the person is ready to accept it through the guidance of a guru. Usually, such memories can be awakened. In fact, there is a whole branch of psychology in Western world today, which is called paranormal psychology, where they put you into what is called regression therapy, etc. They put you into a state of hypnosis, and they go on awakening your past memories, including the memories of your past births. There are some beautiful books which you can read to, if you want to verify what I'm saying. There is a book called Many Lives, Many Masters. An American psychologist who came across a patient who was put under regression, and she would start suddenly talking foreign languages which she could not talk in a conscious state. When she would be put into a state of hypnosis, suddenly she would start talking in German or Russian. And when she would wake up, she would not be able to talk those languages. So in trying to analyze why this was happening, the whole of Western psychology has slowly come to accept this idea of reincarnation, that the soul does not die, the body dies, but the soul is reborn. It takes a new body, comes back in a new form, and these memories are there in seed form, and sometimes this can be awakened. So two examples which I wanted to give you just to drive the point home from the Mahabharata. There is this character called Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra is born blind, right? The story goes that his mother closed her eyes when she saw the Rishi Vyasa out of fear, because Vyasa appeared fearful. He had come from his tapasya to meet his mother Satyavati from the forest, and he had disheveled hair, long matted locks, red eyes, because he would not sleep. He would meditate the whole night, and his eyes had become bloodshot. He had not perhaps taken even a bath. His clothes were all coarse, and he just came running because his mother called him from that state of austerity, tapasya. He came running to the palace in Hastinapura, and on seeing this frightening appearance of Vyasa, Dhritarashtra's mother, it seems, closed her eyes, and therefore Vyasa makes this prophecy, this prediction, that your child will be born blind. And that is how Dhritarashtra was born blind. When he grew up, he cursed his fate, and he said, my mother closed her eyes, but why should I suffer for that? Okay, I have been born in the most powerful royal family in Hastinapura. I have all the riches at my disposal. I have everything that I need, riches and everything, power and influence, but I cannot enjoy anything because I'm born blind. So one day it seems Vyasa comes to Hastinapura, and Dhritarashtra asks him this question, and he says, Rishi, please tell me, why should I suffer the consequences of what my mother did? She closed her eyes, but why am I born blind? Why is it that I am suffering the consequences of this? So Vyasa, it seems, was a great Rishi who could look into people's past lives, and he could look into people's past karma and tell them what was causing their present day suffering. And therefore he looks into Dhritarashtra's life, because in order to make him accept his present limitation, his condition, right, he looks into Dhritarashtra's past life and says, ages ago, in one of your former births, Dhritarashtra, as a child, you had a habit that you would run into the open fields, and you would catch all the moths and the butterflies and the insects that you were able to catch, and you would take a needle and pierce them blind. You would pierce their eyes and turn them blind. That past karma of yours has come to fruition in this life, because you had to learn the value of eyesight. You had turned hundreds and thousands of creatures blind as a play. Okay, so this is what this Shastra is telling us, that whatever action you do, even if you do it out of ignorance, you cannot claim ignorance of the law. You cannot say, I did it because I did not know the law and therefore I did it. You cannot overspeed on the road at 100 kilometers per hour and kill a person and then go and tell the police and the courts that I did not know that overspeeding is a crime. You will still be punished for that crime. And therefore, the law of karma says whether you did it with awareness or you did it without awareness, the result of that action will still come to you. That is the danger of the law of karma. That is the danger of the actions that we are doing. And therefore, we need to be very, very careful about how we act. This is what Vyasa tells Dhritarashtra, that the result of that action of piercing those creatures, even though he did it as a child, even though he was an innocent child when he did it, but still there is an instinct within us which tells us what is right and wrong, and we should follow that instinct. Because he did not follow that instinct, he caused suffering to thousands of creatures. The value of eyesight had to be taught to him, and therefore he was born in circumstances where he had everything but eyesight, and therefore he realized the value of eyesight. Now, I'm not saying that everybody who's born blind is like Dhritarashtra. He must have done something wrong and therefore he has been born blind. You cannot go to a blind person and say you deserved it. You were born blind because you did bad karma. That is not the idea, right? So this is again a very wrong way of interpreting things. Your neighbor, let's say, has a fracture and you go and tell him you deserved it. You fractured your hand because you did some bad karma. That is not the purpose of telling this. This is not the purpose of why Vyasa was telling Dhritarashtra. It is only that when we go through a difficult phase in our life, when we go through a rough patch in our life, it will help us come to terms with that rough patch. It will make us understand that this is happening to me because there is some cause for it. It would not have happened to me if that cause was not there. And as I said, it will bring that sense of acceptance. It will give us the strength to accept that situation and move on and do what is necessary to undo the seeds which are manifesting in the form of that suffering. The second example that is given to us is how, when you violate this law of karma, when you cause suffering to others, how that suffering, how this subconscious mind, how this Chitragupta will haunt you and give you sleepless nights is when the incident happens when, the Pandavas are sent into exile for 13 years, 12 years of Vanavasa, 1 year of Ajnatavasa, when they lose that game of dice and they say these four evil fellows, Dushta Chatushtayam as they are called in the Mahabharata, that is Duryodhana, Dushasana, Karna and Shakuni. It's in their gloating over their victory that the Pandavas have been exiled for 13 years and that they are going to enjoy these 13 years of exile and they will ensure that the Pandavas never return. They threw a party in Hastinapura. They were drinking wine, making merry, even as the Pandavas were leaving the city of Hastinapura with great gloom and dejection. And they say Narada appears in a flash in the room where these four fellows were throwing a party. They say, you fellows, wicked fellows, you have done something wrong. You have caused so much of suffering to those innocent Pandavas. You have cheated them out of their wealth using this proxy game of dice. By using magical dice, you cheated them in that game of dice, sent them into exile, and you are gloating over it. Okay, let me end your gloating, let me end your merry making. I'm going to show you now what is going to happen to you 13 years from now when the Pandavas will come back. And have no doubt about it, the Pandavas will come back at the end of the 13 years, and look at what is going to happen to you. And they say by the power of his tapas, Narada revealed to them their future. And Dhritarashtra, it seems, came also into the room and he was given divine sight to see what was going to happen at the end of the 13 years. A glimpse of the Kurukshetra war, the 18-day war, was revealed to them. And Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana, Dushasana, Karna and Shakuni saw that one by one, all of them is going to meet with a terrible fate in those 18 days. They were all going to die a horrible death. That Dushasana's hands and legs would be ripped apart from his body, that Bhima would tear open his chest and drink his blood. This is how he would die. And the Duryodhana saw himself dying on the 18th day of the battlefield with his thighs broken. He was lying half dead on the battlefield, and the foxes and the wolves in the forest near Kurukshetra were coming and eating him alive, were eating his flesh alive. And Dhritarashtra saw that all his 100 sons, one by one, would meet the same fate in those 18 days, that all his 100 sons would die. And they say this was the end of their happiness and peace. For the rest of the 13 years, especially, Dhritarashtra could not get a wink of sleep. Whenever he would try to sleep, this terrible fate that awaited his sons would come to his mind. It would come alive in his mind's eye, and he would wake up unable to sleep. And poor Gandhari had to give him so many potions and herbs in order to make him fall asleep. Like the condition of Americans today, with all their iPhones and gadgets, they cannot fall asleep. They have to take a drug called Prozac. $1 billion worth of Prozac is consumed every year in America. It's a sleeping drug, antidepressant, relaxing drug. Unless they consume the drug, they cannot fall asleep. Right? So this is what happens to a man who leads a life of merry by violating that law of karma, by violating the basic foundations of morality. If you lead your life, you will have short-term success, as I said, but you will lose your peace of mind. Your Chitragupta, your subconscious mind will become your judge and executioner. And sooner or later, the result of that action will come back to, cause suffering to you, right? So this is in a gist, the basic metaphysical foundation of morals that I wanted to present to you, my dear friends. We'll stop here for today. There is a lot more. As I said, it is impossible to condense this grand, rich heritage of ours, this beautiful knowledge of ours in a single 1-hour class. People spend years to learn this knowledge, but we've just made a beginning. I've just given you one gist of the concept of the Karma Siddhanta to you. But we'll stop here for today so that you contemplate over it, at least learn this one concept with clarity. Can have some interaction now. I can take some questions from you if you have. You can unmute yourself and ask the questions. And thank you for listening to me patiently.
Hello, sir. This is Vinayak here. Thanks for your knowledge sharing. Just wanted to check with you regarding this Karma Siddhanta. Does it work at the community level or a collective humans level or country level or something like that?
Very good question, Vinayak. Excellent question. Brilliant question. What do you think? You tell me logically. If it applies to individuals, will it apply to a group of individuals also or not?
I think yes, and
it should.
It should.
Yes. Yes, it should. It will. This is what is called samashti prarabdha. Okay, the individual is, at the individual level it applies. At the community level also it will apply. What better example do you need than the coronavirus today, right? You look at what the Chinese did by eating all kinds of meat, by causing so much of cruelty to animals. You just have to go and see the animal markets, the meat markets in China, in Wuhan, etc. Where 2008 the SARS virus came, it gave us a message that if you continue causing this cruelty to animals, that if you were going to kill, if you're going to live by causing so much of pain and suffering to so many animals, and you're going to deal with them with deal out so much of cruelty to them, then nature is going to hit back at you. Okay, and when it hits back, it is not only going to hit the Chinese, it is going to hit the whole of humanity, because as the Chinese were doing all these unethical things, the way they were running their unethical slaughterhouses, we were just closing our eyes and keeping quiet about it. And therefore, the whole of humanity has to suffer today, right? What better example than this? That nature will hit back, at the whole of humanity, it is hitting back today. Repeatedly, it is sending that message today that you wake up and, do something about it. Stop this, extreme cruelty that is being inflicted upon animals through these slaughterhouses across the world, right? Western scientists are talking about it today, that red meat industry is the primary cause of global warming today, that red meat industry is the primary cause of much of the suffering that we are seeing in the world today. And yet we are not willing to wake up and, take cognizance of it. And we will continue to suffer. This is not going to be the last pandemic. If we allow not only China, but across the world, as I said, if we allow these mass slaughterhouses that have been built, just look at the red meat industry, hectares and hectares of animal farms in America and across the world, where animals are reared solely for the purpose of meat. Millions and trillions of animals which are slaughtered day after day after day in the most cruel way, in the most insensitive way, for the sake of our filling our bellies, for the sake of satisfying our taste. If this is what we are going to do, nature will hit back at us. The tsunami came in 2004. Okay, why? Because we are tampering with nature. We are tampering with this cosmic law. We are tampering with the cosmic web of life. And nature is giving us repeatedly blows to make us understand. Till we understand, the blows will keep coming. So I hope I've answered your question, that there will be, community. At the community level, you will have to accept the consequences of action. Take Britain, for example. You look at history, for example. Britain conquered most of the, Asia and Africa and other parts of the world. Okay, Swami Vivekananda himself made this prophecy that within the next 1,000 years to 1,500 years, China will conquer the whole of Europe. Not a single stone will be left unturned in Europe. For this karma of colonialism that they did, for this karma of imperialism that they did, Europe will have to become slaves of China and undergo what India underwent under our colonial masters. But this is what we say in Hindi, there hai, no andher nahi hai, that in the in the Lord's court there may be a delay, but justice will be served, and justice is always best served cold. Karma, the law of karma takes its own time to act, time to show effect, but it will come. Justice will come. And you will see that communities will also have to answer for this, right? So this is, if you study history, if you look, just keep your eyes and ears open and see what is happening around you, you will see that it applies to communities, organizations, to, groups of individuals also.
Namaste, sir. This is Shyam Babu from Bangalore.
Namaskar.
Sir, you were telling that this Janma is the reflection of previous Janma's Papa or whatever
Yes.
sins we have did. So this Janma also will do something, some nonsense will do.
Yes.
It will continue for how long it will continue, sir?
It's an infinite cycle. That is what I was saying, that the cycle of birth and death, death is infinite, because the number of karmas that you are doing is infinite.
Okay. Then how to you tell us one way of coming out of it and becoming Sivaikyam or Vishnaikyam or Swargaloka Prapti, whatever it may be. What is the best way of living? You just guide us.
I've given you the best way of living, sir. Follow the law of karma. If you can lead a life without hurting others, the basic principle is that the means are important. You earn your money by fair means. You be happy. You take care of your family. You take care of your community. You take care of your nation and society without causing hurt to others. This is the most basic, most simplest thing that any human being can do, that I can lead my life in a way without causing hurt to others. If you live by this principle, gradually you will start on that path of moksha. That is in fact the foundation. Without doing this, you cannot go, to advanced concepts. That is why Patanjali in his Yoga Sutra says these yama and the niyamas are the eligibility criteria for anybody to practice yoga or meditation. That before you practice any form of meditation or any form of yoga, you have to follow these moral disciplines. The yama niyamas are ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, aparigraha, non-violence, truthfulness, non-stealing, chastity of character, and not accepting gifts from others. These are the 5 yamas. Okay, the 5 niyamas are shaucha, cleanliness of body and mind; santosha, contentment; tapas, austerity; swadhyaya, okay, self-study; ishvara pranidhana, surrendering to the will of God. Right. So these 10 universal values. Sarva Bhauma Mahavrata, Patanjali says that every human being has to follow these 10 disciplines in his life if he has to attain, if he has to come out of that cycle of birth and death. This forms the foundation for it. These are the moral foundations for our spiritual life. So if you lead this life of morality, if you follow these disciplines, you become eligible for coming out of that cycle of birth and death. How to do that? How to come out of that cycle of birth and death? Through a process of vichara, through all these yogas. Well, it is beyond the scope of this particular class, sir, because that is the whole subject matter of Vedanta. Cannot be taught in 5 or 10 minutes. So we'll have to go into a whole, vichara, inquiry into that process.
Sir, thank you.
Hello, sir.
Hello, sir.
This is Uday.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you so much for your session. So we know these concepts, here and there, but you have made it such a strong imprint that we will carry forward with with good conviction, sir. One thing I keep doing is whenever I come across such good learnings and teachings, I keep sharing to my kid who is 7 years old, so that right from his childhood he can also be molded in a right. So during that time he asked me one question which I too didn't have an answer. I thought that I will try to check with you. He was asking me that so like who created God. So I was kind of clueless in terms of how to explain him, and even I didn't know when I was saying that we have this God, energy and God. You were saying who created the God. So if you can share me your thoughts, how I can explain him.
Okay, this is again a vast subject, sir. In fact, I wanted to cover it in today's class, but the time is not sufficient. Maybe we can have a whole session on it. But since you're asking this question, let me try and to cover at least the gist of it. Okay. See, this is where I was saying I need to share a small graphic. Are you able to see this graphic now?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So see, the problem with the problem lies in this word called God. Okay. See, whenever we use this English word called God, the idea that comes to us is there is an old man with a white beard who is sitting outside the world and he's controlling all of us. This is the idea that we get. And modern science, in fact, forget about modern science, our own philosophy rejects this idea of a controller God, of a creator God who sits outside the universe and creates the world and controls it. It's a logical impossibility. In fact, since I was talking about yoga, the Sankhya philosophy rejects this idea of a creator God. I'll just give you an example of that paradox. Okay? You look at, for example, scientists like Richard Dawkins today, evolutionary biologists, using 2 simple arguments, they will break this idea of a creator God. If you say that this universe was created by a God who's outside the universe, so like your son is able to ask that logical question, anybody with some logic should ask that question. So if God created the universe, where was God located when he created the universe? So if you say, let's say he was located at x1, y1, z1 in some Cartesian framework, he is located at this particular point when he created this universe, then who created that x1, y1, z1? Because he could not have created it. He was standing there and then he was creating the whole of the universe. This was before the universe was created. So who created x1, y1, z1? There has to be another creator, call him C2 or G2, who would have created x1, y1, z1. So where was G2 or C2 at x2, y2, z2? Who created x2, y2, z2, G3, C3? It goes on in a loop. This whole idea of a creator God who is outside the universe collapses. It is an impossibility. It is a logical impossibility. You cannot have an anthropomorphic God, a human form of God who is outside the universe and yet creates it. Second, okay, the second paradox that he is giving is, it's a standard philosophical paradox. What is your definition of God? The standard definition that we have been taught is he is omniscient, he is omnipresent, omnipotent, right? So Richard Dawkins will say, if your God is omnipotent, can he create a stone which is so heavy that he cannot lift it? Okay, I hope you understand the paradox. Can your omnipotent God create a stone which is so heavy that he cannot lift it? If you say yes, he can create a stone which is very heavy, he cannot lift that stone, then his power is limited. He cannot be omnipotent because he is not able to lift that stone. If you say no, my God cannot create a stone which is so heavy that he cannot lift it, then again his power is limited. So whether you answer a yes or no, you are defeated in the argument. Your God cannot be omnipotent. No anthropomorphic form of God can be omnipotent by that very definition. If you have to apply the definition of omnipresence, omnipotence, omniscience, it cannot be to a God with form. It cannot be an anthropomorphic form of the God. Third logic, right? Anything which has a name and a form will be limited. You take a circle. The circle, for example, is limited by its perimeter, by its circumference. Take a square, it will be limited. However big it may be, this earth is very big, still it is limited by its boundary. The sun is limited by its boundary. However gigantic an object may be, as long as it has a name and a form, it will be limited by that name and form. And therefore our Upanishads came to this conclusion that if there is an infinite power, if there is an infinite intelligence at work in this universe, which governs this universe, call it Ishvara, Yeshyate, the Ishvaraha, the one who governs this universe, the one who is the sum total of all the rules of the universe, that entity has to be essentially formless, are tending to infinity. If the radius of the circle tends to infinity, that circle will become a straight line. It cannot have a form. It has to become formless. And therefore, the ultimate spiritual truth, the ultimate truth of Vedanta is formless. He is called Brahman. He is neither male nor female. He has no shape, no form. He is beyond all attributes. This is, the ultimate reality. Then why do we worship in forms? It's merely for our convenience, because the layman cannot imagine, cannot visualize something which is formless, an abstract entity he cannot visualize. Therefore, you're simply invoking that formless in form. You're simply trying to have a go-between, a working, setup where you are worshipping that formless through form. And therefore, this is our idea of Ishvara. Again, the third possibility is, the stunning possibility which our Upanishads present to us is, if God cannot be outside the universe, if he has, there has to be, this is where just 5 minutes I will take, because if you have clarity on this, rest, everything will fall into place. See, God cannot be outside the universe. He cannot be inside the universe which he has created. Then where can he be located? This is the paradox. This is the puzzle which our Upanishads try to solve. The Upanishad says everything which is created has to have two causes for it. You see, for example, a pot which is created, right? You see a pot, there has to be clay, the matter, the material out of which the pot is made. And then there has to be a potter, there has to be a man or an intelligence which knows how to convert that clay into pot. This is what are called Upadana Karana and Nimitta Karana. In Indian philosophy, material cause and intelligent cause for everything that is created. You have a chair, you need to have wood out of which the chair is made. You need a carpenter who can convert that wood into a chair. You have a shirt, you need cotton, you need the material, you need a weaver, you need a tailor who can make it into a shirt, so on and so forth. If you apply this logic to the universe, you see that the universe is created. What is the material cause for this universe? And what is the intelligent cause for this universe? This is the basic question that Upanishads and Vedanta try to answer. If I'm seeing this universe, if it is there in existence, there has to be a material cause for it, and there has to be an intelligent cause for it. This is where the Upanishads bring in a very beautiful idea of the spider and the web. It says, look at a spider. How does it weave its web? It produces a saliva and enzyme out of its mouth, creates a web out of it. Then it will also, when it catches the fly, it will eat the web along with it and digest it. That whole web is nothing but the protein which is, comes out of the spider's body. So the Upanishad says, what if I present this third possibility that God and universe are one and the same? They are not two separate entities. What you call Ishvara has also become this universe. They are two non-separate entities, and therefore they are one and the same. Like the spider's web comes out of the spider and goes back into the spider, this universe is a projection of Ishvara, of his mind, and it goes back into Ishvara's mind. It is created Srishti or projected Srishti. It remains for a certain time, Sthiti, then it becomes Laya, back into Ishvara. This is our understanding of the universe and sir. It is not a God who is outside the universe with a form, etc. This is what the Gita tries to present in that beautiful idea called Vishwarupa Darshana. Usually in TV serials, you are shown that Krishna suddenly becomes a huge man with 100 heads and 100 hands. That is not the Vishwarupa. What Krishna is telling Arjuna is, I am this Vishwa, I am this cosmos, this is my cosmic form. Understand that this entire cosmos is one organic conscious entity. And in fact, modern physics is slowly coming to this understanding that this whole universe is a self-aware universe. It is one organic consciousness, one organic intelligence which is at work. I'm showing you the book of a very famous theoretical physicist called Amit Goswami, who teaches at a US university. He's written this book called The Self-Aware Universe. So this, in a nutshell, I am giving you the concept of Vedanta, sir. I hope I've answered the question, but this is not something that you can master in a single day, in a single class, right? So this takes time. If you are interested in this, you need to understand this concept, read the Shastras. This is why a guru is needed. This is why you have to sit at the feet of Swami Bodhmayananji and the great masters like, Swami Vivekananda and learn these Shastras. You take 4 years to, get a BTech degree. If you are not willing to spend at least 3 years to learn these concepts, how will we get clarity? How will we attain something as subtle as self-knowledge without investing our time into it? So tell your son that this is the idea, but then he has to invest his time into learning this. If he wants clarity, then he has to learn these ideas and concepts.
Thank you.
Namaste, sir.
Okay, I think one or two last questions we can take and then we can close. We are beyond time. We have 7:45 now. Another 2 questions I can take and then maybe we can close. I can continue to interact with you. You can get my mail ID, phone number, etc. from Swami Bodhmayananji if you have further questions. And then we can, of course, continue this interaction. I'm always available to you. Okay. So another 2 questions I can take. Kanti, please continue.
Yes, sir. If a person is doing wrong, and if we stay quiet and not tell them that that person is wrong and correct, are we involved in that wrong karma?
A good question, ma'am. It's a brilliant question. It depends again, as I said, on the context of that situation. Okay, so if, let's say there is a doctor, he's operating on a patient on his operating table, and the mother is waiting outside. Suppose the patient dies on the operating table, and you know that the mother is a heart patient. Should the doctor go and tell the mother that the person has died? How does he break the news to that person? Right. This is why the Shastra says Satyam Vada, Priyam Vada also. The Satya has to be spoken in such a way as not to cause hurt to others, as not to unbalance others from their existing worldview or their faith, right? So this is where one has to be very, very cautious. It's a razor thin line between right and wrong in complex situations like this. So we have to decide. For example, if it is somebody next to us who's committing a illegal crime, then definitely we have to have the courage to stop him, right? And we have to tell him, if he's our friend, let's say my roommate is taking drugs and ruining his own life and he's ruining others' lives also by making others indulge in it, and I remain a silent, mute witness to it, then definitely I will become a part of that bad karma, right? That is why the Shastra says, for example, the king will get a portion of the bad karma of all his subjects. So if you're the ruler, not only are you responsible for your own actions, you're also responsible for the actions of your citizens who are under you. You will suffer the karma, a portion of the bad karma done by your citizens will also come to you. This is what the Shastra says. And this is also the idea of family and dynasty and lineage. I am born into a particular family because I have a karmic bond with that family. What my ancestors do will also have an effect on me, and therefore I'm part of it. Veerappan's children, for example, did not get admission in any of the schools in Chennai. They were poor, innocent children. It was not their fault, but their father did something wrong, violent crimes he did, and therefore they had to suffer for the crimes of their fathers, right? So if you are remaining a mute witness to what your family members are doing, your friends are doing, what your community is doing, what your colleagues are doing, yes, ma'am, you will become a part of that karma, will also come to you, right? But how you deal with it is important. If you have the strength to change that situation, if you have the strength to change that person, well and good, change it. But if you don't have the strength to do it, then how do you deal with that situation has to be seen from context to context.
Thank you so much, sir.
Any other questions? Otherwise, we can close.
Can you please tell your email ID?
mpramodkumar@gmail.com. I'll type it in the chat box also for you if you want. My full name @gmail.com. mpramodkumar@gmail.com. Any other questions?
Sir,
Thank
can
you
you
very much.
say
Yes.
your mail ID again?
mpramodkumar@gmail.com. As I said, you can ask Swami Bodhmayanji. You can get my email ID from him also. If I'm just putting it into the chat box also for you. If you want to continue this discussion, if you have doubts to ask, you can also ask Swami Bodhmayanji, or you can send the mail.
Thank you very much for 2 days of invigorating knowledge sharing. Thank you very much. Enjoyed a lot, learned a lot.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone.
Sir, I have a question if you have time.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah.
Introduce yourself, please. May I know
Yes,
who's
sir. This is Uday again, sir.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Yeah. Sir, I completely understand about the reincarnation, the subtle body that moves from one life to another life. But if I want to convince myself that we are soul conscious life, I mean, how do I know that there is something called soul that exists in my body?
How do I know whether there is a soul?
Soul, yes.
Okay. This is, again, see, this is a process by which you arrive at it. It is not something that can happen overnight in a flash, right? So see, we have got attached, as I said, to this body-mind complex. We have identified ourselves with the body-mind complex. This conditioning has happened over many, many births. So the unconditioning will also, the deconditioning will also take time, right? So that is what spirituality sadhana is all about, that you go on deconditioning this mind from the body-mind complex. You go on telling by analysis, by vichara, as I said, you have to identify what is permanent, what is not permanent, what is eternal and what is not eternal. And you go, as you go on analyzing it, the deconditioning of that mind will happen. And then, self-knowledge will arise gradually. Okay, it is not something that can be done overnight, sir. It is not a flash of intuition. The flash of intuition will come when your mind is ready for it. So the 99% of all spirituality, religion, is that preparation. The cleaning of the mind, the deconditioning of the mind is, what leads us to that self-knowledge, right? So there are many paths to it. This is what Swami Vivekananda has given us, various approaches to that. So whether it is through yoga, meditation, through Raja Yoga or Jnana Yoga or Karma Yoga, etc. These paths have been given to us. One has to lead a life of commitment in those disciplines to be able to, prepare the mind for receiving that knowledge. So that self-knowledge will arise, only when you go through these preparatory practices. Okay, but to, maybe to condense it in a nutshell, see, this is a knowledge that has to arise in the mind, right? The mind is critical to it. This is also, a form of knowledge that arises in the mind. And therefore, this is why the Shastra says you have to go to a Brahmanishta Shrotriya Guru. You have to go to a Guru who has, has self-knowledge, who has seen the self, right? Who has attained that self-knowledge, and who is also able to communicate it to you, who is well read in the scriptures, in the Shastras, and who knows how to unfold that knowledge in your mind by using, the power of words, by using the power of teaching, by using the power of sadhana. He is able to unfold that knowledge to you. So this is how, that awareness of that, self-knowledge has to come to you. It is not an overnight, thing, especially given the fact that we are conditioned in the present state of mind. It takes time. But you have made a beginning. So, start from there and keep learning, keep contemplating on this, keep doing the vichara, keep doing your meditation and practices. It will arise, it will come.
Thank you.
All right,
so
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, once again, and wish you all the best. We can close the session for today. Over to the organizers, if Swamiji is there.
Yes, sir, I'm here. Yes, sir, we are here. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your wonderful class, the wonderful knowledge you gave us. Thank you.
Thank
So
you,
before leaving, we have an announcement to do. Please, everyone, log in by 6:15 or 6:10 because the class starts at 6:15. So please be logged in at 6:10.
Thank you, VLAC, for this class.
Thank you. Let's end the class with the Shantri mantra. Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishnaarpanamastu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. See you all tomorrow. Thank you. Jai Shri Ramakrishna.
Thank you. Bye.
Jai Shri Ram Krishna.